Kentucky Derby week is upon us, and we thought what better thing to do than gather our handicappers and dig into the 24 horse field. Obviously, just a prep for the Preakness Stakes coming up 2 weeks after the Derby, but we did want to give it its due. So Nick, Mack, and John going to join me in a moment here on Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz and presented by the Maryland Jockey Club. And once we do the Derby, we're going to take a look at the late pick 5 Saturday at Laurel Park. 10 race cards Saturday at Laurel should be a fun card to bet as we get ready for the Run for the Roses. Please like and subscribe. Let me bring these guys in and let's see who's going to wear roses on Saturday. Hi, guys. Ready for the Derby?
As ready as we can be.
That's one of those, like, is that I don't know. Is that the spirit? Are we excited?
No, it's the Derby. Anything can happen.
And probably will. Let's dig in here, talk to you guys a little earlier about your top selections. Let's start with the Florida circuit, and let's start with John's top pick here. That's going to be the Puma, who does not win the Florida Derby, which, if I can find, we'll show you. John, talk about the Puma.
Well, I was saying off air, I think the Florida Derby is by far the best of the Derby preps. In fact, my top 3 picks are all Florida Derby horses. I really like the way the Puma ran. He's been slowly improving throughout the year. Prior to this, he won the Tampa Bay Derby by 3 parts of a length after a wide trip over Further Ado, who came back to win the Bluegrass in impressive style. Here he's making a nice move after favored nearly off a pretty moderate fraction. 63/4 was in 113 flat to the half and 48-4. But the Puma's still got more to give after yet another wide trip. He has the lead late. He's about to get run down by Commandment, who beats him by a nose, but 3 inches the other way, and Puma might have been a morning line favorite in the Derby, well, at least one of them, rather than Commandment. As it is, I thought the Puma still ran a gigantic race. I'm hoping to get a good price on him. I know in the very early wagering, it's Wednesday morning, about 9 a.m., and right now the Puma is one of the favorites, so I'm hoping that those odds float up. But if it's anywhere close to their morning lines, I think that the Puma is the clear-cut value play of this Derby. And in such a wide-open Derby, you'll have to demand value on whoever you like.
He's 10-1 on the morning line. Nick, you've got the Puma in your mix as well. You've got him third. I mean, it seems to me like we talked about this off air. He's kind of the key horse. He's the one who saw Renegade, who saw Further Ado, who saw Commandment, who saw Chief Wallaby.
Yeah, when you're playing the NCAA basketball bracket, you like to pick the best team out of the best conference usually to win it all. And it's kind of the same thing with the Kentucky Derby. The Puma has seen Renegade, Chief Wallaby, Further Ado, Commandment. So he certainly has been right there, competitive with them all, seems to be ready to take a small step up. This is from the connections. They're familiar with the Derby now, winning with Mage back in 2024. And I think he's a really live shot here. Javier Castellano finally got his Derby a couple years ago. He's no stranger to the Derby or the Puma, so you have a very credible rider there. You have Essential Quality, who didn't run poor in the Derby as well as his sire, so he's just really well connected. And he's named for a singer in Venezuela called Jose Luis, who they call the Puma down there. So I think they say Gustavo Delgado actually resembles him. So they always called him the Puma, and they finally decided to name a horse after him as well. So very, very good pick there, John.
You know, you don't listen to Maryland Racing Today for the picks and analysis. You listen to figure out where the Puma's name came from. Mac, why do you hate the Puma?
I don't hate the Puma. I think that's very strong, but I know, trying to put a little confrontation in here, get the viewers going. So I have to be honest. The Florida Derby, the question for me about the fractions, he was able to get close to not the strongest of paces, and I don't entirely trust that it was a huge step forward. And so that's where I think I take it with a grain of salt. And, if this horse goes off any less than 10-1, I just have a hard time betting him.
Yeah, I agree that you're gonna want value on anyone here, though. So there is that. We'll get to your top pick in a moment, Mac. But Nick, let's talk about Further Ado for a minute. He's going to be your top selection, and he won the Bluegrass Stakes by approximately a pole after having been beaten by the Puma.
Yeah, Brad Cox. Can we just pick the winning trainer of the Kentucky Derby? Perhaps he's completely loaded. He has won and raced on several different racetracks, and it kind of picked up with his maiden breaking win at Keeneland when he won by 20 lengths. Irad Ortiz rode him the whole way. The one thing I don't like is sort of the jockey switch. But John Velasquez gets them out. Irad couldn't ride them all. He finally had to make a choice, but he's well bred by Gun Runner, and just a very impressive action here coming down the stretch in the Bluegrass Stakes. And he's continued to show that in his works. If you've watched him at Churchill Downs, he hasn't lost a step. That's a little bit of a tough transition going from Keeneland to Churchill Downs. Not every horse can make it. But by every account, Further Ado appears to be making that transition very well. It is carried over to the Churchill Mornings. So Further Ado is just simply a play on Further Ado or without Further Ado. That's why he is named.
Thank you for the name update. You've got him underneath in your exact, Mackenzie. What do you make of, he lost to the Puma on the square. How does he turn the tables this time?
Well, I have to be honest, I don't mind that. That was first off of the bench and first start as a 3-year-old. So to do it in the Tampa Derby, I really don't. I mean, I don't want to say I don't put much weight behind it, but I don't take it as a huge setback. He really stepped forward in that effort. He's a winner over the Churchill Downs track as well, going 1 mile and a 16th as a 2-year-old. I wanted to mention the horse who finished second to him on that trip, Universe, stayed productive over the winter and ended up running 4th to Paladin, the Risen Star, and then also 4th to Emerging Market, who I'll touch on later. So that's a little bit of a curiosity, how good is that horse? But I thought he won impressively as a 2-year-old. Improved in the Bluegrass, obviously. Maybe still has a little maturing to do, but if he's headed in the right direction and he keeps moving with it, to me, he makes a lot of sense in here.
He's not your top choice, though. That's Renegade. Renegade, to me, Mackenzie, this might have been the most visually impressive of the Derby preps.
In all honesty, if you take a look at any single Derby prep, this effort we're looking at over in the Arkansas Derby, So Happy might give me a close run out from California, but Renegade just really impressive. The fact, and I think it's kind of telling, the fact that Irad went here over Florida on this particular day, and you just see Renegade able to work a trip. Now, you go back, Paladin, a horse who had a lot of buzz around him. This one got the better of Paladin in that maiden special weight win, unfortunately disqualified, came back to break his maiden regardless. And I really like the way they've managed this horse. 3rd off of the bench coming into the Derby and showed every bit of professionalism in this 2nd off of the bench as well. Really, really hard to deny. He got the better of the Puma back in February. And so for me, the way he finishes up, I know the 1 post is a little bit of a question mark, but if he can work out the trip, which he's not devoid of early speed, I think he can kind of sit in the middle of the pack. It makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, he was bounding away at the finish in the Arkansas Derby. He looked like he was really in his element. John, you don't use Renegade, who is the morning line favorite, at all. Is it the post position because people are sort of spastic about the one hole, or is there other stuff that troubles you?
I mean, people are kind of distrustful of post one, not without reason.
It's been a long time.
Yes, well, only one horse in the past 60 years, and that was Ferdinand, who was one of the best horses to ever win the Derby. He went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic the year after, so we don't quite know if Renegade is of his stock. And Renegade is probably the best horse to break from the inside post in the Derby, since looking at Lucky, who had the inside draw, got sandwiched around at the start, and didn't do much. I do think having that new starting gate, which is not quite as close to the rail, will help Renegade out some. I just don't think his ceiling is quite as high as that of the other horses who I like. And it was also not that strong a field in the Arkansas Derby. I mean, I think the only runners from the Arkansas Derby here are Silent Tactic, who's a good superfecta type, but not really one who I think is a serious win threat, and Litmus Test, who had a bad break and will show speed, but he hasn't really shown that he can last on the front end. So I do think Renegade, he merits respect, but in a race like this, you have to draw the line somewhere, and I can't take 5-1 on a horse who I think is a borderline threat. I will say I am cheering for him in part because if he wins, maybe Rupoli will stop whining so much.
Or maybe he won't. We'll have to see how that plays out. All right, Nick, I want to talk to you about the Virginia Derby because, of course, you want to talk about the Virginia Derby. Winner of that race was Incredible. Here we go. We popped that up. Now, in this race, as it was going on, I'm saying right about here, like, is he going to be able to find a way through? He finds a way through and ends up winning this race for fun. Incredible, you have at the bottom of your super.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure it's my head and not my heart that's kind of pulling Incredible up, but he is certainly performed well recently. This win here, he comes down to the rail, and then he just sort of takes off. And the configuration of Colonial Downs, a lot of people just don't really see until they get there how big that dirt track is. It really kind of resembles Churchill Downs. It's bigger than Churchill Downs. And for him to just carry forward this way through the entire stretch was really impressive. I think there was not a whole lot of competition in the race, but just the way that he dramatically won it. Riley Mott has had great experiences at Colonial Downs and certainly is a hot trainer with Albus also in the field. And I think he has 2 wins at Churchill Downs. That's something you can't ignore in the past performances. So I thought he was worthy. I think he'll run way over his 20-1 odds. I'm convinced of that. And I think the betting will reflect that as well. I don't think he'll be 20-1 by post time either. I think he'll be up there 12, 14-1. I think he's a real good long shot.
Mackenzie, you've got him third in your selections here. I am curious, like, one of the things I struggle with a little bit with the Virginia Derby is it's a 1-turn mile and an eighth, which is a sort of a screwball configuration. How do you sort of, integrate that into your handicapping?
I have to be honest, I sort of take it with a grain of salt, and I don't worry too much because in this setting, this is a horse who's already proven around 2 turns, and he's proven around 2 turns at Churchill. I think that kind of speaks for itself. You go back to the street sense, traditionally, pretty meaningful race for a 2-year-old. So I give him a lot of credit there. I just have to ignore the Holy Bull. I don't think that is reflective of him at all. Now, the one thing to mention about Colonial, though, is those times come up a little faster. Sometimes the numbers come up a little bigger. That's where I kind of take it with a grain of salt again. But the horses who were in that race, I think Confessional ran second to Nearly in his first off the bench, first time out as a 3-year-old this year. And so while it may not be the same stock as we saw in the Florida Derby, things like that, I do think there are comparisons that give a little bit of weight to the horses who were running underneath of Incredible. Once he got clear, though, man, He really finished up well. And so if those fractions hold anywhere near close to true for me, I think he's a really likely horse. One of the ways that I always have to handicap the Derby is, who's going to be able to work their trip going extremely fast for this distance. And that, to me, really says a lot about the horse. So that's why I mentioned the Florida Derby fractions earlier, because, again, I don't think that transfers as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, let's talk about a couple other horses that you guys are using one way or another. I mean, a horse we haven't quite gotten to yet is the winner of the Florida Derby, Commandment. Nick, you've got him second here. He won the Fountain of Youth, won the Florida Derby, won the Macho Man. He's 4 for 5, won 4 in a row. Tell me about Commandment. Well, who's he named for?
Commandment is named for an edict or law. Might be a play on the, what is it, Scipion Harbor, who was his mayor, but I'm not exactly sure. Couldn't dig that one up. But this horse also has a win at Churchill Downs, and that's where he broke his maiden. He's went down to Florida and been winning ever since. Part of the Cox Triumvirate, that he has in this field. Luis Saez aboard. He's always there. He's reportedly dull in the morning. When you see his works in times in the morning, when you see his action in the morning, he's just slow to rise. He's not a morning person at all, but you just can't ignore the performance. And he is in that grouping that came out of Florida, the Puma and Chief Wallaby and, those horses that really kind of make up the toughest competition in the Derby. It does appear that the best talent came out of Florida this year. So he's just a hard trier. He's well-bred in the mischief. That's kind of why how do you throw him out? What has he done? What has he earned to cause you not to put him in your top 4? It's kind of hard to leave him off, other than he might get bet a little bit, and that's something you don't like to do in the Derby, is pick the favorite.
John, you've got him at the bottom of your triple. It's interesting because you guys, the three of you, are sort of lining up on two different sides. One side is the Florida races were really good. That's the place that the winner comes from. And then Mackenzie's on the, I'm not sold on the Florida races. I'm going to look around.
I mean, the only reason why I didn't pick Commandment on top is because I just didn't think he was going to offer a lot of value. I think as of now, he's like 8-1 or so, which I don't think is going to last. But if it did, that would change my opinion of him somewhat, because I think he is the best horse in the field on pure ability. As Nick said, he won 4 straight. He managed to nail the Puma in the last few jumps. Also beat Chief Wallaby and Solitude Dude, 2 very nice horses in a Fountain of Youth 2 starts back. I'm just not quite sure how his absolute last-second closing style is going to play out in a race like Derby. It's a bit different timing out your move in a 5-horse field compared to in a race with 19 others. But again, on pure ability, he's the best horse in the field. It's just a matter of what kind of price you'll get.
So building on what John said, that last-second closing ability, he breaks from the 6th post. If he encounters traffic, things like that, it just feels like a race where a lot could go wrong for him, and you'd be looking to make excuses for a horse who isn't a great price in here. He's very much a grinding style. He doesn't have that explosive kick where once he gets clear, you just know it's going to be eating up ground in 2 strides. So that's a little worrisome to me. I do want to point out, though, I ride off of him for the Florida Derby, and then Flavian ends up riding Emerging Market here. Is that somewhat of value in handicapping this race?
That's a good point. 2 jockeys in a row get off to land someplace else. Although, landing with Chad, landing with the other horse are probably pretty good spots. There are a couple of horses that have barely started, made just a couple starts that you guys are using. One is John, Chief Wallaby, who's made 3 starts finished second in the Fountain of Youth, third in the Florida Derby. Got to find a way to get past Commandment here. You've got him in your exacta.
That's the thing. I mean, he's been holding. I mean, I know he hasn't won around 2 turns yet, but he has been holding his own with some very nice horses. Obviously, Belmont and Junior Alvarado know what they're doing. They teamed up to win this race last year with Sovereignty. And again, I think he's not too far off of the ability of Commandment and the Puma, and he'll be a decent price. I mean, right now he's 14-1 in the betting. If you got a price like that on him, I don't know how you could pass that up.
Are you? I don't love the first time blinkers in this spot.
Is that to me?
It's to anybody.
I actually think it's kind of interesting because I don't know if I'm terribly surprised they add blinkers. The way he travels and the way I like this horse a lot. I think he's more a long-term type. And I do think like kind of the head up, sort of looking around when he's finishing up some of these races. That's where first time blinkers, it might really kind of help him. I don't know if I agree with you though. I don't know if you really want first time blinkers going into the Derby, but Belmont doesn't make those decisions on a whim, and his horses generally get better with experience.
Yeah, I mean this horse might be the most talented of the group in the long term. The question we're confronting here is how good will he be in
Saturday?
3 days, right? Another horse that you're using a little bit, Mac, who has even fewer starts, just 2. Is Emerging Market for Chad Brown. You mentioned Flavian Pratt landing there after this horse ran down. Who do you run down in the Louisiana Derby?
Pavlovian.
Yeah.
Pavlovian, who ran great, by the way, in the Louisiana Derby. Not getting any love from anyone. But go ahead, tell us about Emerging Market.
Look, I mean, I think you kind of go one way or the other on this horse, but is he one who I thought might be overlooked? It's a barn that sends out horses who are generally well prepared on debut. I thought the debut effort was actually huge. Now, that was Lasix on. He came back, Lasix off for the Louisiana Derby. Really just didn't do a thing wrong. Fractions were pretty good in my eyes. And for a second time starter to do that going a mile and a 3/16, I think it's a horse to watch. And now Flavian obviously rides for Chad a lot. So how much was it sort of getting on Commandment saying I can't ride him for the Derby? Maybe that's something that came up ahead of time and it was never going to be the plan. But I do think that it certainly doesn't hurt to have Flavian on him in here. And I think you can kind of play a few different places with him. He's not going to be too far off the pace, and he has a nice outside post. So can't imagine we get anything less than 10-1. He should really be an honest 15-1 in here.
This horse has the exact profile, like almost to the T, of Chad's Preakness winners.
This is exactly what I thought.
I think, who are they? Cloud Computing was
2022. Yeah.
And there's another one whose name's
the wine horse, named after a wine, right?
That is not triggering.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is they had only had like 2 or 3 starts, had shown talent, skipped the Derby, come to the Preakness, win the Preakness. Interesting that he shows up in the Derby here.
I mean, if that head had gone the other way, I figure he probably is Preakness bound. And I feel like him being in this race in just his 3rd start, it's a little bit of Derby fever, because while he is a very nice horse, it's a tall task. I can easily see him getting chewed up, finishing 13th, and then not showing up again until like some numbers or 2 other than allowance at Gulfstream in December, because the race took so much.
One last horse that you guys are using, John. I think you got full effort at the bottom of your super. He has made all his starts on synthetic or turf.
Yes, I mean, there were many horses who I considered for the 4th spot, including the aforementioned Pavlovian, who I think ran 2 really sneaky good races. But, full effort has obviously shown a very strong closing kick. A Turfway Park Road, the Derby, has proven itself pretty fruitful in recent years, and I think it's being still somewhat underrated. I don't know if I can bet him to win, but he is the perfect type. I think the key underneath in a trifecta or a super at what should be a fantastic neutral.
Yeah, that race has been extremely productive, given what it is, on the wrong surface, among other things.
Can I ask a question for one other triple-digit buyer horse?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Pavlovian and emerging market fighting through the wire. I thought what So Happy did with Potente was huge, and I rewatched that replay again the other day and still had chills all over again. I thought that was a very good race. Do we think he transfers it over, or did he peak a little too soon?
I think it was good, and I also think the San Felipe was sneaky good because he ran $3 million horse Brant into the ground, couldn't contain the winners. That's not really the trip he wanted anyway. Then he kind of does the stock and pounce thing in the Santa Anita Derby. I like him a little bit here. I think he's coming in a really good fashion.
That's
I
funny
agree.
you bring that up, because I wasn't going to let the broadcast end without mentioning the Santa Anita Derby winner with Mike Smith there. Certainly worth a mention. And, remember when all the Derby winners came out of California? I mean, you didn't even look at any other Derby prep races. Certainly not the case currently, but, So Happy will certainly be a sentimental story for the Derby. Perhaps the best named horse is Right the Party, right? Right the Party. His father is Constitution, and his dam is Having a Party. So he wins the naming Derby, perhaps. Chief Wallaby, named after the casual shoes that the winning owner or that Catherine Ball's husband wears all the time. So Chief Wallaby, some cool names.
Hey,
there.
Nick, you're old enough to get this reference. These other guys are not. Doesn't Chief Wallaby sound like he should be leading the tribe menacing F Troop?
You're right. Wasn't that the name of the Cleveland Indians mascot at one time?
No, that's Wahoo.
Chief Wahoo. There you go. Yeah.
But I will say also about Right to Party is he's the first Derby mount for Chris Elliott, who has been doing good work in New York over the past year. Of course, his dad, Stuart Elliott, won the Derby on Smarty Jones. So I think they're the first father-son combo to even ride in the Derby. And if Right to Party pulled off the impossible, they'd, of course, be the first father-son to win the Derby. So that'd be pretty cool.
Now, the Wood Memorial, which is the race he comes out of, he was second to Albus. The Wood Memorial was a very slow race. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Gazelle for 3-year-old fillies was one race earlier on the card and considerably faster fractions, faster home, just a much better race. Anybody want to make a case for anybody out of the Wood?
No, but I will say that.
All right, then.
Well, I will say that watching Taj Mahal in the Tessio was a little bit bittersweet because, I mean, obviously he will be a Preakness horse, but I know he was being pointed to the Wood for a little while, missed a little bit of training time. And when I saw Albus win, and especially when I saw the speed figures come back, all I could think about was Taj Mahal would have won the Wood probably with his hooves tied behind his back, but he will still be a nice horse in the Preakness, and Albus and Right to Party are going to finish 17th and 18th in the Derby, so maybe Taj Mahal will have the last laugh after all.
Yeah, it's got one of the things about the Wood, it had from a starter standpoint, it had a deep field, and that's something you're kind of seeing here. It's like, usually I like to look at horses that beat a number of horses. I like horses winning in deep fields going into the Derby. It's almost the polar opposite this go around. When you look at the Virginia Derby or the Wood Memorial, a lot of these horses that beat 9, 10, 12, horses, aren't getting the respect of the horses that only beat 5 or 6, so that's kind of says something to the competition and maybe how people think of those fields. But it is a little backwards this year, it seems.
That's sort of what prompts my thoughts with the Florida horses. Some smaller fields that those come out of, and I just can't wait to see kind of how it shakes out and who can work the trip there on Saturday.
What does the pace look like, do you think?
Well, that's what makes, I think, number 4 litmus test a little bit interesting. I know I kind of
thank you for mentioning litmus test
a while ago, but I mean he had a very bad break in the Arkansas Derby. He didn't make the front, so I'm willing to discount that race. He set pretty honest fractions in the Rebel, ended up a somewhat respectable third, sat on the pace in Los Al Futurity and won that. He gets blinkers here. I don't know if he's going to last on the lead, but I know he could certainly take them around a pretty long way and at least give you a thrill if you bet on him.
Well, this seems to me like if your friend who doesn't play the horses comes to you and say, I want to blow up the tote board, this is a horse that could blow up the tote board. I think he's got the talent. I mean, he's got multiple mid-90s buyers, was beat less than 2 lengths by Ted Noffey, won the Los Al Futurity. So he's clearly got some talent, got cooked on the front in the Rebel. They take the blinkers off. They did the experiment 1 race ago. That didn't work at all. He was hung out in the parking lot, got a bad break. He was done in the Arkansas Derby. Now they go back on. That horse that ran, a length behind Ted Noffey's in there somewhere. If there's one trainer you think can get it out of him for the Kentucky Derby for one specific race, it's Bob Baffert. And he's 50 to frickin' 1.
That's the thing. Like, he's 41-1 in the betting right now. And I mean, Baffert has not been quite as sharp with his 3-year-olds in recent years. But I mean, I can easily see this horse, at the top of the stretch, still in front, and me being like, oh my God, how did I pass up this horse? It was one of the dominant speeds at 40-1. Now, I know you can't bet everyone in the Derby, and I will have to make peace with not playing certain horses. But if I was going to play like a pick 4 or pick 5 and go deep, I would have to throw them in for the reasons Frank mentioned.
Anybody else want to take a different side on litmus test? Everybody else apparently, but
yeah, I think he certainly is part of the speed, but the Derby historically, you're going pretty fast, and it's hard to imagine he's not going to be on the inside in here, and he's not going to be pressed every step of the way. It's hard to do that going 1.25 miles, and I think we saw it in the Arkansas Derby. Blinkers on will help move him forward just a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be out there alone.
Yeah, 6 speed might be there with them. We haven't really talked about any of the Japanese or Dubai horses. Do we just have to see it first before we get on board?
Isn't that a good question? I know Dan Ellman at the Maryland Jockey Club has been touting Dan on Bourbon relentlessly for months, and I'm guessing he'll be happier than the Connections if this horse wins. What do you guys think about we've got Dan on Bourbon, who won the Fukuryu Stakes in Japan. We've got another Japanese horse, Wonder Dean, won the UAE Derby. 6 Speed was second in the UAE Derby. He's not Japanese, but has been based in the UAE and had previously won the 2000 Guineas over there. What do you guys think about those horses?
I just think we need to see it first. Forever Young almost pulled it off. There have been some good finishers. They're a little more Americanized from the breeding standpoint and style standpoint, but until it happens, I'll probably draw a line through all 3.
I'll say also that I know Forever Young is going to be kind of the poster boy for anyone touting a Japanese horse in the future. But he's proven himself to be a superstar. I don't know if any of these horses quite have his ceiling. And, last year there were Japanese horses in the Derby who were, I think, kind of overbet, especially Electric Cafe. And they both finished in Nowheresville, which is the more common track of these Japanese horses have taken. I think right now Forever Young is kind of the outlier among that group. So as Nick said, until it happens, I'm not convinced it will. And if Dan on Bourbon beats me, it's like, good for you, Ilma.
Mac, what about you?
Look, I actually don't mind Wonder Dean. He's well traveled. I think he's been honest and professional in the efforts that we have seen from him. To me, I really am not going to argue with him in here. He needs to take a step forward. But if I can get 30, 40 to 1, something like that, maybe I throw him underneath a little bit here.
All right. So let's see here. We got John's going 9, 12, 6, 20. Nick 18, 6, 9, 11. Mackenzie 1, 18, 11, 15. Those are your top fours from our expert panel. Final thoughts on the 152nd running of the Kentucky Derby, mile and a quarter, 3-year-olds, $5 million on the line. Mackenzie.
Just add a little asterisk with So Happy, the 8-horse. That's the one who I don't really know where to use him, but I do have to use him in just about everything.
John?
I said my piece on the Derby, but I do want to give a quick shout-outs to some horses with Maryland flavor this weekend. Dazzling Dame, Maryland bred in the Kentucky Oaks. Super exciting. We also got Splendora in the Derby City Distaff and an old PowerPoint Doom in the Churchill Downstakes. So while there's no Maryland connections in the Derby, it could be a big weekend for the red, yellow, and black contingent. Fingers crossed.
Nick?
Yeah, it's the funnest race to bet all year because of the big 20-horse field. I usually start my trifecta at the bottom and work my way to the top, which is kind of what I did here. And I have, I think, 9 horses in the third leg of my trifecta. So it'll be a broad tree going up to a very narrow point. But it's one thing about the prep season, we did not see that many defections, which is always good. That's why we have such a good Derby this year. It stayed together, it stayed intact, and we always like to see that going into the Derby. It's conditions are going to be great. I think I saw 65 degrees and partly cloudy. Everybody there should enjoy that. And those who can't make it, watch it on TV, have a lot of fun. It's going to be a great race.
Hey, Nick, did you have I'll Have Another in the Kentucky Derby? I can't remember.
Do I have to? Not only did I have I'll Have Another, it was the last year I went to this Derby over here, but I had I'll Have Another, Bodemeister, Doulahan, went to Daywell, had the Superfecta in order. I played the try. I did not sink $1 on the Superfecta, and I think it paid $59,000. And I'm going to put I put a Superfecta ticket down ever since. I always put at least one Superfecta ticket down.
It's actually one of the best races to play the Super, I have to admit.
Yeah, the horse came out of California. Bob Baffert told me. He said the best horses came out of California. I couldn't pick Bodemeister because our companion on the show, Derby Bill, off to the races Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. You catch the archive on the Racing Biz. But he was taking Bodemeister, and I picked the other good horse out of California who happened to be I'll Have Another.
I just can't resist speaking about that.
I can't resist answering it.
What a jerk I am. Oh, that's fantastic. So, all right. Well, it's been a long time since I picked the Derby winner, so I got nothing to add. Nick Hahn is the host of Off to the Races Radio, powered by the Racing Biz on ESPN Richmond and ESPN Harrisonburg. John Piassek is the Maryland racing analyst for the racingbiz.com. Mackenzie Pfeiffer is the on-air analyst at the Maryland Jockey Club. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for your Derby picks. Nick, we're going to kick you off to Churchill Downs now and then turn over the reins to Mack and John to talk Laurel. Thanks for being a part of it, Nick. Good luck Saturday.
Don't mind being 86. You got it.
All right, Mack and John, got a 10-race card Saturday, Laurel Park. A couple interesting races there. I've been chewing through them last couple of days. I'll be doing the morning show on Saturday, so looking forward to that. And then Mackenzie will be unleashed in the afternoon. And, of course, John will have all his picks. So I'm going to let you guys do your thing here and analyze late pick 5.
All right. John, right off the bat, what's your favorite race of this sequence?
I would have to say race number 7, which is the feature on the card. It's a 3rd level allowance optional claiming, because it does have the very big question of how well will this version of Worcester do going a mile and a 16th. If you think yes, he's a single. If not, it throws the race wide open.
I have to agree with you. That's kind of my feeling for race 8, 5.5 on the turf. But we'll start here with the sequence in race number 6. Have to stay alive through this leg to get to those. It's going a mile on the turf for claiming 16. Never won 3 in life. And this is another one. I don't really have a true single in here. Walk me through how you play it.
I don't think anybody can single in here. This is a really, really tough race. I ended up kind of defaulting towards the somewhat obvious of JB Ness and Yazid Hazelwood. Number 1, Fridays with Murray, who has not raced since July 30th, but I did like his last race. He came from well out of it to finish in a dead heat for win with Dominguez, who is much better than anyone in here. While he has not raced since then, he has worked well at Laurel Park over the past few weeks. Of course, Ness and Hazelwood need no introduction when they team up. So he gets the slight nod in here. One horse who I think is going to be a long shot, who I'm looking at, is number 9, Fight No More Forever. Homebred for a Boniface team. Taylor Kingsley, apprentice jockey, gets the call. This one tried a steeplechase last time out. Didn't work out so well, but I think he's well suited for a race like this one. He ran some sneaky good figures towards the end of last year against better competition. Won against starter allowance foes, going a mile and 5/8 at Fair Hill back on August 30th, and ran a nice second against the field, much like this one at Delaware Park in August, while showing ascending figures towards the end of the year. I think those not as great running lines are going to drive up his price as well as that off the board steeplechase effort. But if you dig through it, I think there's some talent here, and you'll get a lot of value and possibly start off this pick 5 with a bang.
I agree. Now, my only question, I do think the 7.5 from Delaware, as you mentioned, that was August 13th. I do think that should transfer quite well to the mile, but that's maybe sort of the curiosity for me. Where do you think the speed comes from in here?
I don't think there is any, and that might be kind of his downfall. In that sense, it does open things up a bit for number 2, Risk Factor, who has not been in great form at Gulfstream Park, but he does have a lot of speed, and you figure Joe Rocco is going to send him to the front. I know Fight No More Forever has the ability to be forwardly placed. In fact, when Taylor Kingsley rode him last time, he was somewhat close to the pace. That was in his win at Fair Hill, when he was 2.5 lengths off the pace. I'm hoping that he sits somewhat close to it on the outside, and I think he can work out that kind of trip if he so chooses.
I do agree. Summer Vibes, another one I just kind of have to mention in there. Gets second time back on the turf. Might end up working out, especially with what we saw this one do, sprinting on the dirt as well. Kind of fits in the group if you really want to spread around here.
I picked him third. No, I'm just real quick. I picked him third. That's a really nice horse he lost to last time out in Durango. This is kind of a class drop, if anything, and he should also be close to the pace.
Exactly. Close to the pace is kind of what we're both looking for there in race number 6. The 7th comes up. John, this was your race that you wanted to go ahead and look forward to. So tell us, Worcester, back in action or still a question mark?
Well, he's really interesting because, as I mentioned, he's done most of his recent damage around one turn, but in another life, he was a very nice 2-turn horse. He broke his maiden going a 2-turn mile at Del Mar. He has graded stakes placed at this distance. I think he was 3rd in the 2023 Bob Lewis back when he was in the Bob Baffert barn. Since then, he's done very good work for both Brittany Russell and Kieran McGee, and he has done well going a 1-turn mile. Now, if he duplicates his form around 1 turn, going 2 turns, he's going to be very hard to beat. I think that he's going to. I am pretty confident that that 2-turn ability that he showed at 3 is in there somewhere. You won't get much of a price on him, so I don't know how confidently you can single necessarily, but he is still worthy of my top choice.
He certainly does deserve it. Now, National Law, this is one who's kind of interesting to me. First time gelding in here. I was sort of wondering when we might see that. What are your thoughts? Is he one who's a likely single for a lot of people?
I think he's the best alternative to Worcester, and I did pick him second. I mean, he ran about as well as one could have expected, given the circumstances. Last time out, Certified Lover Boy, who crossed the wire first that day, set a very easy early pace. And when Certified Lover Boy gets away with easy fractions, he can't be caught. The fact that National Law was able to close and get second, I think kind of speaks volumes as to the amount of talent that he has. And if you pick through his other somewhat recent lines, which are not that great, he has excuses in a lot of them. I mean, he was facing much better competition at Monmouth Park. He was 4th in the Monmouth Pegasus. Tried the Haskell. He was ranked there. And he was kind of outclassed anyway, kind of outclassed in the last hurrah at Turfway Park. But he broke his maiden going 2 turns as a 2-year-old. He won around 2 turns at about this time last year at Pimlico. So I think he's very talented. We know that he likes 2 turns. I'm hoping he gets a bit more of a pace to close into. JD Factor drawn to his direct outside looks like the main speed. So it's possible that he deals with slow fractions again, but he has a ton of upside and will be a much better price than Worcester. That's for sure.
I do have to agree. I'll be curious about the price, though. Wanted to mention, first time against older company. We saw him in November here at Laurel. Missed out to very in-form Hagrid's Flame, and just a solid older horse. So I think I'm willing to be a little bit more forgiving about that, especially with what we saw in the aforementioned Certified Lover Boy race. Really liked him that day. Had a hard time with that trip from the gate. Race 8. This is the race I was looking forward to and pretty excited. 5.5 on the turf for restricted allowance group. This one for the girls, though. I don't know if I've really wrapped my head around where I'm going. Lady Ensign, though, Hugh McMahon and Hazelwood, first off the bench. We know they can be dangerous early in turf season.
I mean, I think that they've already teamed up for a grass winner at, I think, 6 or 7 to 1 a few Fridays ago, so we know that they can do it. The big thing with my top choice, one Biscuit with the Boss, is if you draw a line through her last race, she's much the best in here. The question is, can you draw a line through it? She sat off the pace on the inside, had no apparent traffic trouble, but still backed up very badly and ended up well beaten. Now, it's possible she had something wrong with her. She was off the work tab for about 6 weeks, came back into training around here at Fair Hill back in mid-April, and has 2 very good recent workouts posted. She clearly loves this grass track. She hasn't missed the board at 4 starts on the Laurel grass. She's from a family that loves sprinting here. Her full sister, Bosserati, won the Maryland Million Turf Sprint a while back. She has a lot of speed, but can win from both on or off the pace. I think the good version of herself is going to show up here, and that's going to be good enough to win this race.
Now, this is the one I am sort of curious about. I'm totally willing to draw a line through the last out. I actually don't have any concern with the work tab. I think it's really interesting because in that break you mentioned, she comes back to Fair Hill, likely just sort of moderate training, letting her sort of get settled in. And I like that she had a little bit of just sort of a freshening. It's not a long time off, but, if you draw a line through that last out and just say, okay, we have her fresh. She's training forwardly. She's training well over the synthetic. 2 works coming in, the most recent being a Bullet. My real concern, to be honest, is actually whether it's the inside that she doesn't like from that last out. And then there are a few other races where I feel like she just hasn't really necessarily run her best. And there are a few where she's been able to kind of get the better things, but that's sort of my one tick. Do you have any insight with the inside here?
It is a little bit of an issue. She broke from the inside in the Blue Sparkler Stakes at Monmouth Park, ended up coming in 3rd, broke from towards the inside in a stakes quality allowance at Colonial Nest timeout and did nothing. Though I think it's a bit blurry if she didn't do well in those races because of the inside, or if she didn't do well just because she was simply outclassed, because those two fields that she faced that day were much better than the ones one that she'll see here. So I think a drop in class kind of outweighs the fact that she's drawn towards the inside. It's a little bit of a wash in my eyes.
I do agree with you there. I can't quite discount her, but I'm not ready to single because we have Mopo back. And to be honest, I think Mopo's good going long or going short. And first off the bench, she has a few bullet works, including one on the turf course back on April 12th. Is she a use for you?
Kind of. I think on pure ability, she is the best horse in this field, but I don't know how much she wants to go 5.5 furlongs. I mean, on the Brisnet scale, her worst figure of last year came when she went 5.5 furlongs. So I kind of wonder if Phil Capuano is thinking of this race more as a prep for a spot down the road. I mean, she has not raced since November 15th, so he might just want to get a race into her and then have other two-turn targets circled for down the road. I also don't like how in 9 career starts, she's only won once and come in second 6 times. She always kind of sets the pace and then almost hangs on, but then can't quite do it. That's a frustrating horse to bet on, so I'll let her beat me.
Okay. I'm a little more forgiving. I'm a big fan, but she just seems like a developing type. So we'll see when it all shakes out. Race 9, though, the late double here. This is going to be for 3 and up allowance, restricted allowance here, going 6 furlongs, but we're going to be on the main track this time. Tell me, do you think On a Proud Note can just keep rolling on with the form we've seen recently?
Yes, I do. I mean, she's been in just fantastic form all winter and spring long. She's won 3 out of her last 4 starts. The only time she lost was when she had a bad break. Still recovered and missed by just a neck. We are taking a look back at her last race in a Maryland Million starter allowance back on March 22nd against a pretty similar field to the one that she's seeing here. I Can Do It and Anita Beer, who were 3rd and 2nd that day, respectively, are both back in this race. And On a Proud Note beats them pretty easily. She's being pressed on the pace. She's going to shake off that challenge in the stretch and win, going away by 4.5 lengths. Brisnet figure of 86, one of her best figures in a long time. She has lots of early speed. None of the 2 horses drawn to her inside do. So I think as long as she breaks, she'll make the lead and the rail. And then from there, pretty much do this again.
Have to agree with you. Now, if you don't go ahead and single on her, it starts to get a little bit of a head scratcher almost. And so then I feel like you open up a can of worms for just about everyone else. But I think we're both probably in agreement. That's a reasonable one to try and get through with single.
I agree. And the one Sheeta, I think, is kind of interesting if you're long shot hunting. She broke her maiden with a pretty dramatic rush last time out, in spite of not changing leads. 1 by 1 and a quarter length. Cupid's Choice, who was 3rd in that race, came back to break her maiden pretty impressively a few days ago. Paul Luna keeps the mound, and he doesn't win that often, but when he does, he pops at some pretty big prices. If you did nothing besides his weight Paul Luna horses and bet them, you'd be sitting in very good shape after the winter and spring meet. I mean, she's trying winners for the first time, but if she can duplicate that race and improves while adding Lasix for the first time, again, I don't know if she can beat On a Proud Note, but she's interesting if you do want to try to beat the favorite that badly.
I do agree with you, and I'm glad you brought her up. Didn't necessarily rally from too far off of things, but liked the way she did it. First time against winners, have to demand value, but she could do it certainly for a price. We wrap things up in the 10th. Now this is going a mile, claiming 12.5, never won 2. Here's the question I have. I think the pace scenario kind of runs through Christmas Spirit, and he could be key in here. We saw him battle and tire last time out, but there are a few horses who look like they kind of might want to be on the front end, and he could help keep things honest here.
He could, but, he loves losing at short prices. He broke his maiden at, I think it was 10th, asking a few starts back after losing maiden claiming races at short prices. In his last 3 starts, he's gone off an 8-5 or less, and he's lost every single time. he will show speed, but there are, I think, a few horses who can challenge him, like Tyson. Focus made it on the front end at Parks 2 starts back. He has some speed. First Officer is also going to be put into play. So is Idleweiss, and so is my top choice, number 7, Lifting, who has been in very nice form in his last 2 starts. He ran a big race, first off a 9-month layoff last time out, where he was pressed through pretty honest fractions, ended up second, albeit only in a 3-horse field, but still was a good race for his first start in so long. I'm kind of hoping he sits just off the pace. I don't necessarily want him to be sent by Jevion Toledo, but he has a very high ceiling. He's fairly lightly raced, and he is my choice in what I call the last chance to build up the Derby bankroll.
I agree. Now, Lifting, that last outing, missed out to Amy's Music. So you mentioned small field, but Amy's Music, a horse with some back class, was shortening up in distance as well. But I do think is, a solid enough effort. My only concern, does the wet track move this one forward? But Class Relief might go ahead and counteract that. I kind of feel like I have to key around Edelweiss and Lifting. Is there anyone else you think we need to be alive to for the last?
So our top 2 choices are Idleweiss and Lifting. The one Tactics is a little bit interesting. He's going first off the reclaim for the Eubanks team. Daniel Eubanks has been extremely sharp. He's 4 for 7 in the exacta with starters in his name. He made decent ground against a fairly nice field of open 3-year-old claimers last time out. Ended up 4th. I think this is a slight drop in class, at least compared to what he's been seeing. And I can easily see him rallying well late and getting at least a share of this one.
I do agree. He's the one. Couldn't quite place him, but can't quite count him out either. Thought the 2 back was very good, and if we kind of get back to it, but another one, maybe the wet track was what helped him out on that particular day. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we'll be building the bankroll there with 10 race card over at Laurel, and then roll it all back for Sunday and the Derby. It'll be quite fun. See if Frank has any last minute additions that he wants to throw into the mix here.
No.
Very definitive.
Short and sweet.
Am I right? I was looking at I haven't completed handicapping the card yet. So, but there's a turf sprint and I think you guys might have just referenced it. Hugh McMahon has a horse coming first off the bench. Worked him a mile the other day. I thought that was Hugh likes to work horses a mile, but I thought that was a very interesting last work before going 5.5.
Yes, what I really like, and this one has that pattern where we see sort of shorter, sharper pieces and then just kind of building them and letting them have a little bit of stamina. So she has a bullet back on March 24th, and then she has a turf work thrown in there. You basically checked every single box you can. So it feels like this one is second off of the bench rather than first off the bench.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting way to look at it. No, that's good. So I thought that was interesting. I think I stopped handicapping at the race with Mopo.
That's that race. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. I looked at it and I was like, I can't make sense of this right now, so I didn't bother to. But
yeah,
I hopefully will have by the time.
When in doubt, don't.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't handicap this one. Not paying attention. All right, so John, your top 4 in those last 5 races: 6th race 1946, 7th 6124, 8th 1643, 9th 3165, and 10th 751 and 3.
I didn't make any typos. Yay.
Yes, that is good news. So folks want to follow along at home. John's a good handicapper. You want to follow along at home during the day. Mac will be on the air Saturday, giving out, hopefully spitting winners. Who's your side? Do you have a sidekick Saturday? Who is it?
I believe Mike Beer is back
going down. Okay.
this weekend. Nice. He's great.
Okay, good.
If I heard that correctly, I think he is back for Saturday.
So no one tells you anything, in other words. Got it.
No. Maybe I'll learn in like 45 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, good. We'll see you then. John will have picks for on the racingbiz.com to supplement this podcast. And guys, thank you. Good luck with the Kentucky Derby. Good luck with the Laurel Pick 5. Good luck with, good luck with everything. How's that?
Yeah, I might have to turn my phone off this weekend. There's a lot of good handicapping to get into, and we can't afford distractions here.
No distractions. We don't want those. All right. Well, that'll do it. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll do it here for us on Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz, the racingbiz.com, and presented by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Thanks so much for listening, watching, liking, and subscribing. Please remember to do that as well. Maryland Racing Today, back at it next week. Next week, we'll have the Kentucky Derby in the rearview mirror and be headed on to the Preakness. Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. Once again, like and subscribe. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next week.